Hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to Canadians with Disabilities and Their Allies. My name is Brent Frain. I'm the host, and the show is also known as PWD Allies Podcast. And you can find your favorite podcast on Apple Music, Spotify, or any of your favorite apps that you like to listen to the show on. And today, I am so delighted to have Bif Naked joining me. Bif Naked is a advocate. She's a music artist. She's just a great all-around person. It's such a thrill to have you join me. I know we've been trying to arrange to have you on for quite some time, and today is the day. And we're going to talk about Bif's music. We're going to talk about disability poverty and the Welfare Food Challenge, and any other topics that come up in between. So hello, Bif. Thanks for joining me today.
Wow, Brent, that was such an introduction. I can't thank you enough for arranging to have me on your podcast. I'm a big fan. And yeah, this is cool. I mean, everybody's snowed in. I mean, you know,
a snow day.
Yeah. It is a snow day. Yeah, it's great. It's a great way to spend it. So hello.
Well, I was so happy that it was so much back and forth with Eric Alper, and I was so happy that he stayed patient with me while I was going back and forth with him. But yeah, it's great.
Coordinating everything and get everything all set, and we're ready to go. So first off, Bif, I want to talk about your music. Your celebration that you had just last year of your 25th anniversary of your big album.
Advocacy.
Yeah, it's very excited. I mean, as you guys know, time flies, and one thing I'm learning ahead of anything else is, the greatest commodity we have is time.
Yes.
And so for me to kind of look back on a quarter century, I mean 25 years ago, we were making that record in Vancouver at the Armory Studios. And it seems like it was just yesterday. It really does. And so I still sing a lot of those songs. They're my favorite songs, like Spaceman and Lucky and Moment of Weakness. And it really did, I feel, was a real pivotal album for me. I love making records, and I continued after that, but it really did kind of change the trajectory of my career.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, like when we were advertising your spot, I used the song Anything, and I loved it because it was like like the crunchy guitar and talking about meeting up at the ice rink, like very much Canadiana kind of stuff. It was like, this is cool, and
I'm so glad.
I was gonna say too, like I'm only about 3 years older than you are, and Advocacy is the one album that I have like a very vivid memory, like because I used to always go into like HMV and like A&B Sound here in Vancouver, and that was the one huge album. And you would I remember walking into A&B Sound and like your posters and everything it's just everywhere, right? For that one album, because it was hitting so hard. Like you could just walk in and I remember seeing it everywhere. Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's I've been really, really lucky. I always say that for me, and all the other, all my other pals in Vancouver, everyone, there are a lot of people way more talented than I was, but just worked hard enough, I guess, got lucky, whatever the case, and we continue to work. I think we probably did 300 shows a year for
that's amazing.
about 18 years. So it's, you know, it's fun to look back at it all, and I still love it, and I still make records. So I feel very fortunate.
I remember hearing on the different radio stations, you know, they would mention your name, you know, every so often, and your name would come up as in a reference of different discussions over time. And I was thinking over time, before I even launched my my show, and I was thinking in the back of my head, you know, I'd like to eventually, you know, get on different artists, this and that. And then in the back of my mind, your name came to my mind. I thought, Bif Naked. I thought, who else would I like to get on? And over time, and I thought, and I approached Neil, and I'll tell you this a little background of the story very quickly on how the show got started. It was about I wanted to make change. I wanted to make change for people with disabilities in the country, and bring people together with lived experience and talk about their stories and what they go through on a day-to-day basis. You know, is it about, you know, food insecurity? Is it about homelessness? Is it about government imposed legislative policies? Like there, you name it, like whatever it may be. Is it health related? So I contacted Neil and I said, you know, I've got this vision. I just don't know where to go with it. Like this is what I want to do, but you know, I go, can you work with me or help me with this? And I'd like to make you my editor producer. He goes, and of course Neil would.
And I didn't have a clue. I was honestly, I didn't have a clue, but I was like, sure, whatever. And so we just winging it ever since, right? Yeah. And I mean, amazing. as you do more and more, you get more better at, you know, you know, like if you keep doing stuff and you repeating stuff and you get better at it. But you know, we just kind of winged it from the beginning. Yeah.
So, amazing. Well, what a gift the combination of your talents is to the world. I mean, come on, this is fantastic.
But I actually wanted to talk about I know, and this is a bit different, maybe a little off book or whatever, but it's kind of a pun, you'll realize. But I just kind of wanted to know where you get like your songwriting process, because I don't know if you know this about me, but I've actually written a book, like a memoir. And like I started writing it when I was 22, and it was just as a kind of a lark, like, because I'll tell you why, is because you know, when I was about that age, like I wouldn't see any, like when you'd see books about disability, it was like, you know, oh, poor me, you know, pity me kind of stories, right? Or like some sort of like inspiration porn kind of books. And it's like, and I was like, well, I don't want to read that. Like, like why can't we read books about like sort of the fun side of disability? Like, not, you know, it's not all fun and roses, but but I at least wanted to put some of that, like inject some of the fun into it, right? And but you know, so having said that, I spent, you know, so 22 I started to write it, and then I kept putting it away, so I basically put it away for 20 years almost. And then when I had my son, I had all the time in the world, like when he first was born. So then when I turned 40, I took it out again, and then I finished the whole book. And like it took me like about 2.5 months of just steady writing, and I just wrote the whole thing. And so I just kind of wanted to know if you kind of have that similar kind of spurts of inspiration where you just like, if it's kind of a similar type of thing or not for you. As a songwriter.
Yeah, what you're describing is real life for people, and I commend you on being able to accomplish such a huge and wonderful feat. And I think that the thing about everybody, as we are adults in life, and people have to, you know, all of us have to work, and people have families, and it is difficult to find the time to dedicate to creative work, and especially unpaid. You know, it's very, because the rest of the time we have to, you know, try
and Brent and I are getting paid tons doing this, right?
Exactly. Exactly. But you know, but those are, and that's your passion, and that's why
Yes, exactly.
it's rewarding, and it's fulfilling, and it gives our life meaning. And with songwriting, I think is very, very similar to that. For me anyway, I know a lot of people who, you know, they map it out during their day from 10 until 2 o'clock. They're gonna write songs and that type of thing. I've never been that person ever.
Yeah.
You know, I've just never been that person. I get spurts of inspiration. Obviously, if there's an event or something that has inspired me or something, of course, some tragedy has befallen me, because I love writing sad songs.
Well, you're a survivor of cancer too. We should say.
Well, you know, I think that and I always say everyone's a survivor of something, really and truly, and that kind of that pendulum for all of us swings from year to year. We never know what's coming, and the things that teach us to be flexible and teach us to be resilient are the things that help build our character and make us strong for the future. And with songwriting, it has to be, for me, it has to be an inspirational spurt. I like to do that a lot.
That's cool.
I mean, I know for myself, I like to learn from other people too, and it really gives me a lot of inspiration to learn and see what the inequalities are, and also the qualities of people too. I look at and I don't I just take a stance and I listen to people very carefully of where they're at, but I learn, like, there's things that I don't know, and I'm like, wow, I didn't know that, or like, wow. And so listening to like what you're going through, like what you're going through during your songwriting, and what really brings certain momentums in your life. I find it very intriguing too, of different maybe life events that maybe that would change certain things, and maybe write a song based on what you're kind of going through. It's interesting too.
I always find too, like, you know, when you write something, it's because I've written little things like poetry too, and I always find that it's always a bit of a time capsule, right? Like you talked about with your Ibifficus album, it's going back 25 years. It's like a time capsule, because you contain those songs were written at a time when you were younger, and so it's a time capsule for you, right? And when, you know, so when I've written stuff, as like, you know, I kind of look back on, I wrote that, and you realize your headspace is so different.
And that moment,
and you're like, you know, you look at it and you go, well, I don't know if I could actually write that same thing today, because I'm in a completely different headspace now. Like, I don't know if I have that ability to, if I would have that same ability to say those same things, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Oh, I can so relate to everything you're saying. I can think about, for example, Spaceman. I mean, you know, when I was 24, I really thought it would be, you know, helpful if I was abducted by an alien, instead of having to deal with my life or whatever, you know, escapism I was fantasizing about. And even though I probably would have other escapism fantasies today than alien abduction, you know, it is a time capsule. But even every time I sing the song for every concert, it still means just as much to me, and I get transported into that moment. And you know, like the songs like Lucky, I dedicate it every show to nurses, because they mean so much. They helped me so much in my life. You know, if only I could keep all the nurses in Canada, that'd be great. But you know, I like being transported back to those moments.
It's that moment of time, you know, and you enjoy and just treasure that moment of that time that you're in, and just really focus on just the momentum of what that meaning is, like what you're going through. It's that strong sense of, like, the song. Say you're singing a certain song and you can really relate to what that really means. It's so cool. I don't know. You would know better than I do of what, maybe when you're singing a song, of what you're thinking at the time.
You know, sometimes I betray myself as a performer, because I want to, you know, do a fantastic job. Obviously, I'm thinking about not singing flat. I'm thinking about not falling down. But sometimes I really do forget myself.
Do you still get nervous? Do you still get nervous?
Every show.
Every
Oh,
show.
really?
Every show.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah, every show. And I get emotional when I'm singing some of these songs. You know, I totally lose myself in the song. And that's something that, it's a forever habit.
I think it's just natural, right? It's especially, it's like if I'm doing a podcast and I get really in depth of listening to what the person's saying, I can actually relate to like some of the stuff that what the person's talking about too, and I can just get so just wrapped up, and I just tune out everything that's around me out. And you know, is my roommate would say, and I'm just like, you know, it's like, I'm just tuned right in here. And it's that moment of time, like that moment of the capsule time, right? It's
it's so true. And what you're describing also is human connection. And that's something that's why we're talking today, for example. You know, regardless of whether someone is you know, just new to your podcast or even new to advocacy work or new to the topic, or it's that human connection that helps us share our knowledge and hopefully inspire more understanding.
So
that's a good segue.
I like that.
because you know, we can talk about your upbringing a little bit, and because I mean, you're known on both coasts of Canada, because you spent time in Vancouver, and then now you're in Toronto, so you're on both. You know, you're known on both coasts, but and you're known as a singer, but you're equally known now as a anti-poverty advocate now, and so you know, where did all that kind of start from? Like, was it early in your upbringing, or how did that come about?
Well, I would say yes. I mean, I always blame my parents, you know, for everything good and bad. And and they were, I mean, my dad was a public health dentist. He had his master's in public health, and before anything else, he was a socialist and, you know, a public health dentist. He liked fixing teeth for free. That was my dad. And my parents, so they were American. They adopted my sister and I in India, but lived in the States and grew up in the States themselves. So, you know, because of their generation and their age group, they were on the march for Washington. You know, my dad marched with Dr. King in Selma. You know, my parents were civil rights activists, and they kind of raised us to have that social justice lens. And so for me as a university student, you know, kind of getting into punk rock bands, it really was a perfect fit. Because lyrically, it gave us an outlet to kind of, you know, decry the things that we were, you know, opposed to, and really get into activism in that way through music and through art. And that was something that came very naturally. But as far as, you know, I always kind of say, I look to the organizations and the friends that I have who need an extra voice. Like, you know, I can think of really big issues in this world. They don't need my voice. They don't need me. You know, they have a lot of support. They have a lot of different advocacy. But the things that keep bothering me to this day, and which really bothered me in Vancouver, obviously, you know, is poverty. And they had an organization called Raise the Rates. So they, you know, I loved being a part of the Welfare Food Challenge. It was a great idea to try and share with the public and get on the news and really prove the point that the rates aren't high enough. I mean, and again, like you said, this is in 2018, and we would, like, you know, estimate, okay, so, you know, if you're living in an SRO and you have to have a bus pass and everybody has to have a cell phone, and, you know, then you budget out whatever you budget out, you basically get about $7 a day left to eat.
I think it was like $5 and like 75 cents or something like that.
And now it's probably, like, honestly, now it's probably less.
It's negative now, I'm sure.
And what people wind up doing is they wind up not getting their prescriptions filled, or they wind up not, you know, getting a bus pass or whatever the case, and to be able to have food. And it's not food like most Canadians think it's food. Everybody whines about their grocery bill, of course. You know, it's outrageous, and the pandemic only served to exacerbate what is already happening.
Right.
And so, you know, if anyone was impoverished prior to the pandemic, you know, the pandemic really drove it home for all families. And it was just, you know, now I think more than ever, it's just so necessary for us to keep talking about it. I don't really know how on earth we're going to be able to put enough pressure directed at the government to basically raise the rates, which we've been saying for 20 years. And prior to me, you know, activists were saying it for 20 years before me.
Right.
You know, it's very frustrating.
Yeah.
And we should say, like we talked before the show, but you know, I had that title on the opening card, like have your name and picture, and the title on the opening card is Welfare Food Challenge 2018. And I wrote 2018 ironically, as I said, because we all know in 2018 they had to cancel. There was no food challenge in 2018, and you can tell the audience why, Biff. There was no food challenge, and why was that? Why was that?
Because no one was going to do it. Like really, there was no one able to do it. No one was able to do it, and
well, you make yourself sick. You'll make yourself sick and hospitalized. It was what it was.
Absolutely.
It was going to be too dangerous. It was going to be too dangerous now to do it. They realized, and they so in 2018 they were going to do it, and they pulled out. They pulled out because they realized this is far too dangerous now to do this.
That's right. And so it's too dangerous for advocates, but it's real life for people who are living it. You know, it is real life. And yeah, I just think that most of Canadians would be, they don't understand, you know, but even if you hammer home the awareness and the statistics, you can prove it over and over again, much of the apathy that really is the undercurrent of this society, it's very disheartening. And you know, we can't even get most of the population to vote. So how are we going to get them? How are we going to get them on board to you know, to care about their neighbors who may be,
well, even the government officials, they had to bail out on the food challenge too, because they said it was actually harming their health and their well-being. And so
that's right.
I mean, that goes to show right there, it comes down to policy. Like, it's policy driven, and we need to have these policies somehow changed to modernize and reality of what people face on a day-to-day basis. Like, nobody should be having to go without meals. I mean, and nobody should be having to sacrifice meals to have meds, you know, versus them saying putting a roof over their head. And you know, and that's going to be kind of the segue of where I'm going to lean into that part of the topic is, you know, having the affordability of having enough money to basically put a roof over your head, where you're not having to choose between having a roof over your head, buying food, or having your meds or any other disability related you know, service or resource that you need for your disability. Or if you're not on disability, if you're just on regular income assistance or aka welfare, like whatever province they want to call it, there are a lot of people that have disabilities that are actually on that system that are tending to try to get onto disability because they have disabilities, or they're over 65 years of age and now they don't qualify for any of the social benefits. Now that's a huge topic too that I want to dive into a little bit in a bit. But we'll talk about the shelter rates. Wow. Recently in BC, they just recently raised it from the historic rate of the $375. It finally went to some people, not all, up to $500. If you had to, but you had to prove that your rent went up above that $375 threshold up to $500. You still can't rent anywhere for $500. Not in private sector.
No, you can't. And you know, some of the places that you can, they're not safe. You know, you've got these landlords doing things that are illegal and cramming lots of people into small spaces, and it's just, I mean, it's it's really a nightmare out there. I mean, is it better than other countries? I actually don't think so anymore.
Yeah.
You know, I think
Yeah.
that, you know, obviously it's a global problem. It's always been a problem, but now, you know, people have to turn their gaze here, and we have to do something. We have to do something.
Yeah, there's a lot that I can say growing up, and again, I'm only 3 years older than you, Biff, and like I look and I say, like, is this the Canada that I grew up in? Like,
no.
And you kind of look at it now and go, this is not the Canada that I grew up and I remember, right? And we have it's really active in chat. I've been trying to scan the chat, and basically everybody's just saying, like, you know, thank you for your advocacy, and Dan is in chat and saying PM naked. You know, Bif Naked for Prime Minister, you know.
Oh gosh, no.
But yeah, there's lots of like thanks for your advocacy and all that kind of stuff. But it's really lit up in the chat there now. So it's
well, that's great. It shows that the popularity is right there.
Well, you know, I think the thing is, you know, and this is the thing, you know, the three of us can sit here and have a really meaningful conversation. And everyone can, you know, chime in and say, yes, you know, we agree. Yes. But at the same time, it's how on earth, you know, what do we do? Like, what can people do? And
that is the big question.
Most people don't understand what they can do. People don't feel like, you know, they can do anything. We you know, raise the rates, that some of their ideology was that, you know, food banks shouldn't have to exist, was
exactly
100%. You know, they shouldn't have to exist. But unfortunately, at least here, you know, in the neighborhood I live in, they are so necessary. They're so necessary because people don't have meals. They just don't have them. And so, you know, how can we kind of look at that as and that's for people who can access them, who can get there, or who can get delivery. You know, there's also a segment of the population that cannot access food banks. They cannot access things. You know, you can think about, you know, even, you know, people that I know, for example, who, you know, they can't use the internet, they can't have a computer. And so how are they supposed to access applying for stuff like ODSC? How are they supposed to access, you know, applying for jobs or renting? And, you know, I could talk about it all day. But it seems like the system is set up for people to fail.
Well, one of the things I wanted to touch on, and I've touched on this before in the podcast, is, you know, there's not enough people in power with disabilities that are using their voice for good, right? And that's why, you know, Brent and I have made a kind of a running joke of having Michael Bublé on the show as a, you know, because I mean, and like, you actually are a really good example, Biff, of here you have a celebrity, like, you're using your celebrity for good, right? You've turned your celebrity in like to be a good advocate for something. And unfortunately, like I said, there's not enough people with disabilities within power in places of influence that are moving the needle, so to speak. So that's why you know, Brent and I have made a joke like, let's get Michael Bublé on the show, and I mean, this is why you're a perfect fit, because you are a celebrity, but you're also, you know, you're also on the other side like an advocate that's really pushing hard against, you know, poverty and all that. But not enough people in power and celebrities are using their influence, and not enough people with disabilities are using their influence to change and push the needle, like I said. And
I see your puppy there. Aww.
Yeah.
I keep muting the microphone because there's actually five little dogs here, and yeah, it's very exciting. Yeah, it's at my manager's house. There's lots of dogs, including mine. Yeah, she was just here. But yeah, just a takeaway of what you're saying. I appreciate so much that, you know, that anyone would think that I'm using celebrity, but I've never felt like a celebrity, and I still don't. What I really feel like is the same, the same kid in Winnipeg, Manitoba, who was handed a microphone. And really that's the whole point, is that we're handed, our job, just as either performers or speakers, we're handed the mic. And so, like it or not, we have the mic. And so, what can we do? How can we really contribute? And it's not contributing to the world. It's really, who can we kind of help out? Who needs to be uplifted? Who needs a hand up? And I think that, again, it just goes to, it goes to Canadians in general. No Canadian likes to see their neighbors suffer in any way. People are basically really good people. Everyone considers themselves a good person, and people want to do good things for other people, but it has to start. It really has to start with wherever you are, whatever you can do where you are. And, it's the lens with which you see the world. You have to look at it with a different lens. A snow day is a perfect example. Yeah. If you're only going to shovel your sidewalk, why wouldn't you shovel? If it's not shoveled to the end of the block and you can do it, do it. Because there's going to be somebody who maybe has a walker. Okay. They can't get through the snow. Maybe there's somebody, who's in a wheelchair. Like, please shovel the sidewalk. Like, just little simple things. And once you start seeing your day in that lens, it's gonna snowball for you. It really will, because you'll start waking up every day, and the way you see things will change, and you'll start to see all of the glaring errors that exist from day to day for everybody. It's not just food insecurity. It's not just housing insecurity. It's so many other little things.
Oh, absolutely. It's like advocacy never takes a break. It really doesn't. And poverty never takes a break. And so combining both those together, it's like a snowball effect, right? It's
But talking about disability specifically, like, do you remember growing up? Do you remember what do you remember of Terry Fox, for example? Do you have any do you have any, like, for me, like, he's burnt into my brain. Like, I remember like, because he would be in front of cameras and microphones, and like, he was a young kid then, right? He was a very young kid then, but he had the gumption to stand up in front of microphones and basically say, like, this is bullshit. Like, like in a little bit more eloquently, but you know what I mean? Like, he wasn't afraid to just call it out and say, like,
spade's a spade.
A spade is a spade, and we got to do something about it. And he like, this is one person. And I remember, like, he unified the country more at that time. Like, it's so powerful for me. Like, the one person unified the whole country, and to think, like, he was so powerful. And this is goes back to my earlier point, that we don't in the disability community, we don't have anybody like that. It doesn't feel like it anyway. We don't have anybody like that anymore. It sucks. Difficult. It sucks.
Yeah, it is difficult. But you know what? The thing about it is, there are so many amazing people doing amazing things, and they're on TikTok and they're on Instagram. We have to go and find them. Of course, it's not like it was back when we were kids. And I mean, Terry Fox made such an impression on all of us, because, we were also, encouraged to do the Terry Fox run in our schools. And, like, it was on, the news. I mean, when my family moved to Canada, we only had 2 channels on the television, and both of them were running the Terry Fox's run and his story running across the country. And it was inspiring, to everybody. And you're absolutely right. It did unify, it united everyone. And that's the thing. And that's what we were talking about earlier. It's our shared humanity. Our shared humanity is what is going to move the needle. And that's also what's going to move the needle with politicians and the policymakers, because things have to change. And I hear they're all doing budgets now. Everyone's doing budgets for the year, and they have got to really, really listen. And we have to write letters. We have to call. We really have to step it up, and that means everybody, not just us. It has to be everybody in the community.
Yeah.
And one thing that Terry Fox taught me, since we're on the topic of that, is I remember delivering newspapers at the time. And Terry Fox, when the announcement came out, and I was beyond shocked at the time, because wow, it's front headlines. But one thing that really came over me at the time was, and I remember, as I'm around you guys' age, same thing. So I know, it taught me to never give up. Never give up. That he gave me that inspiration of that. Yes, there's a lot more to give in life, to keep pushing forward, to see change happen. That you see somebody that's down and out, or suffering, do what you can do. And my mom taught me the same thing growing up. It's help your neighbor out. If you can help your neighbor out, help your neighbor out. Mow the lawn if you can. Of course, I do that, and I had allergies really bad. So I just kept pushing myself, though. I kept pushing myself, saying, I can do this. I can do this. Of course, trying to cut the lawn, straight line, Brent. But it's shoveling snow, shoveling driveways, going, like you mentioned, Bif, and I help the neighbor out. I do that around the neighborhood here too. We have snowfall, and I just got the shovel out there, and I went out there and did a Breaking with Brent segment.
And I've seen all your snowmen that you went out and built. That was cool.
Yeah. I got a picture today, but I haven't posted out Bif. But it was one of my neighbors actually built a dinosaur snowman.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, it was
that's
so
amazing.
Cool.
Oh,
yeah,
that's very artistic.
I know, and it was snowed. I'm thinking I got a picture of it this morning before we had major snow coming down. I was like, I got to get a picture of that. But today was the wet snow. Yesterday was dry snow. Yesterday was dry snow. So yeah, but it goes to show that people have that artistic way of showing what their creation of what they can do. And I shoveled a little pathway around with my shovel because there was a gentleman who just got off the bus, and I was walking just around the block, and he had just got off, and I actually shoveled a little bit around the bus stop because it was starting to kind of pile up, just to show so nice. my way of helping. Yeah.
One of my pet peeves of all time is when they have the snow clearing, right? And where did they put all of the snow? Where did they put all the snow, Brent? Is on the sidewalk. They pile all that stuff on the sidewalk, or they pile all the snow in a disabled parking stall.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. It's like, what?
Huge accessibility for sure.
Yeah. And we're allowed to call and complain if we see that.
Yeah.
We have to. Yeah, we're allowed to.
I looked at ways of improving accessibility within the community. Our walkway wasn't shoveled yesterday. We had all the snow came down. The sidewalk wasn't. I phoned up the city. The city, and I said, I don't know what the bylaws are here. What can be done? And they said, oh, it needs to be shoveled. That's not an option. It has to be done in front of wherever you live. I mean, is it a business? I go, no, it's residential. And I didn't want to say, I said, well, I'm not going to want to squeal on my landlord here, but I'm really concerned about accessibility. If somebody slips and falls, I walked out, and yes, it wasn't really deep, and I was able to walk through it. It was powdered snow. And I'm not saying, the people listening or watching this today, I'm not saying it's fine. What I'm saying is that when that freezes, right, that becomes now a safety issue, and also accessibility issue, and not just for me, but for people with disabilities, elderly people that are maybe not safe, good on their feet. Anyone can slip and fall. Hell, I've taken falls myself, and I remember, over time, and it was not good. I took a face plant the one year and scraped right on the snow and in some of the pavement, and it was.
You got to be careful.
Yeah. Well, I was doing paper. I was doing papers. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so I made a phone call, and the next thing I know, it was all shoveled. It was all cleared out, and yeah.
Fantastic.
And that comes down to, I had to go in 1 year. I bought a shovel. I budgeted for it. I was able to buy that, but some people can't. Some people can't afford to buy the basic necessities in their life. I mean, some people take it for granted. Oh yeah, it's just a shovel, or it's just buying vitamins or minerals. They could just go and buy these things to try to better your health. You can't get them all at the food bank. You can't get all those things that you need, and that's why raising rates is so important. And Bif, I was involved with the $300 campaign actually during COVID, and in BC, and we had a COVID supplement in BC that was given to PWD, and we thought, well, this is good. Like, it's going to improve the person's well-being. You can go and buy the COVID supplies that you needed, the masks, the sanitizer. Oh yeah, lots of that. Dried out the hands pretty good. Most definitely. But I was able to buy these things I needed. I was able to go to the store and buy more nutritional food that I needed for myself, and just stock up on basic necessities. And also, I was also able, at the time, was able to rent a more expensive place that I could call home. Unfortunately, when the COVID supplement, they said they were rolling it out for a period of time in increments. And they said they saw that it was changing the person's well-being in a good way. This is great. We'll keep it going. And so I had media contact me and my roommate at the time and said, well, how would this change if the government took it away? Like, what would happen if they took this away right now, or they made an announcement saying we're taking it away in such and such a month? What would happen? I said, I would have to move. And so they asked my roommate, well, like, what would happen? She goes, well, we would have to move. We would lose our place. And so, unfortunately, we actually had to make a decision, and because our rent was high, and it was a situation where if we wanted to continue on, our rent would actually be more money. Like, our rent was our rent, but we'd actually be having to pay more if we wanted to stay after, like, for the following year. And I thought, okay, there's something going on here with that. I didn't like that situation. So Sonia got her right away. She got and looked on the Craigslist, and she was looking through all these other rental ads sites, and came across a place in Victoria. And so we came out here and we saw it. We got it within 15 minutes. We had the place. Wasn't ideally the place that we wanted to, because I call the Fraser Valley home. Like, that's where I grew up. That's where I grew up since I was a little baby. And so that's all I knew. I moved to Surrey for a while. I moved out there for a while. I moved up to Kamloops. I was actually living there as a career move, which was nice, a different kind of climate. But so I was kind of here and there, but still, home was still home. And we had to move away from home. That we knew everything was in accessibility wise, everything was in walking distance, transit. We were able to take transit if we needed to, but so we had to make a big decision. And so when that money was taken away, it made a huge difference in our lives. And so I've been really advocating and pushing forward to saying, well, just reinstate the money. It's the rates were already well below the poverty level of BC. And all the rates in Canada are well below the poverty level. I mean, my gosh,
they are.
Even in Ontario, ODS.
And this is where you said, Bif, earlier that the pandemic really shone a light on inequalities, right? Because we all know when Trudeau said everybody needs $2,000 to live, right? With the CERB. Like the $2,000, that was the high watermark of $2,000 to live, and everybody with disabilities knows that we get about half of that, right? And so everybody in the disabled community was like, wait, what? What's going on here, right? So
that's right.
So it's like $2,000 versus like $1,300 here now, but we got the increase after. Just recently, right? So it was actually, I don't know, it was like $1,200 or something before.
Yeah, I mean, look at ODSP though, for instance. I mean, their rates are just below poverty because the buying power it just erodes. Like with inflation going up, their rates. I mean, you can't even rent a one-bedroom unit in anywhere in Ontario or anywhere in Canada for what the shelter rate is for what the governments give anywhere in Canada. I mean, can't even rent not even a washroom, I wouldn't think, or a storage closet for that rate. I mean, wow.
Yeah, it's very frustrating, and it's precarious, you know. I mean, we could do an entire episode just about housing. And you know, it's all across Canada, as you know, it seems like it's insurmountable. And there are great organizations that are really specifically housing advocacy organizations across Canada. But again, you know, they're trying to lobby the government all the time. It's exhausting, thankless work. And sometimes I'm sure it has to feel futile because nothing seems to ever get accomplished.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, what can we do? You know, all we can really do is try and support one another. And
well, we always talk about pink unicorns here on this, and you got a pink unicorn
I
behind
got
your
one
head here.
behind me here. I got one right behind me here, Beth.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
And that's about you know, addressing stigma and things like that, you know, because we have lots of rules on disability assistance where you're not allowed to leave the province for 30 days, or you're not allowed to be married without penalty. You know, and now now the country's going to be opening up MAiD now, so that, you know, if you're living in poverty, now that will be an excuse now to get MAiD, like, you know. And I mean, that's, to me, that's just not right.
March is just around the corner. There's a lot we could say about.
Definitely. You know, there's so many changes that need to be made, but obviously, you know, people just have to stand up for what you believe in. Talk to your MLAs, talk to your MPs, your MPPs, any member of government, and let them know that it's not okay. Like, it's not okay the way that the policies are written. I mean, they're so archaic, I call it. You know, it doesn't have to be that way. Like, we can make Canada a better place for everybody. And I know it's like music. It's like the music of the soul. Like, it's like soup. It's like a soup. It feels good, right? And that's how advocacy works. It makes you feel good because you're trying to make the change happen. That's right. And that's what I keep striving for every day. Some people say, well, Brent, take a break. Well, I do. I take a mental break. I take a break where I put music on and I just listen to music and I just tune things out and just to
I never wanted anything.
I actually
the way I wanted
songs
you
on
that
actually
night.
just morning. I was been around the block and I tuned out. And I put music on and I took a picture of this, like I say, this dinosaur was made of snow. Man, I had this music on and I was listening to the intro song that we had as a promo one, and I was just like, you know,
I used to follow you and your friends to the ice rink.
Oh, I like that song a lot. Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, you know what? And that's the truth. Those little things do help us recharge our batteries. And I think a lot of people do get burnt out, for sure, when it comes to activism and advocacy, especially when it just seems like it's not getting anywhere year after year after year. Things just seem like they're getting worse for people. But we have to have faith in each other and in ourselves, and we have to have faith that it's going to get better. We have to, even in the wake of, you know, like you're talking about March of this year, you know, when the regulations are going to change for MAiD. I mean, that's a very touchy and emotional topic for so many Canadians already. It just, you know, it's not, it doesn't feel like it is going to reduce barriers for anyone. It doesn't feel, it feels kind of sticky. And so it is tough. It is tough to be a person in the world already, So when you've got
Yeah.
more and more barriers, it's even tougher. So, we got to stick
And
together.
the newest article that we shared too is the fentanyl thing, where here in BC,
Oh, right.
they're
Yes.
saying that they're going to they're going to allow kids basically access to fentanyl without the safe supply fentanyl without parental consent. And again, like, I want to make clear that I don't have any experience with I'm not an addict. Like, I don't have that experience. So I'm going to remove myself from that point of view, but I am a parent. And I think it's really wrong that the government kind of puts itself in that position of it's government as parent, and they're going to overrule. I think that's a dangerous slope too, right? So like, all this MAiD and all this overruling of parental consent is a really dangerous thing, and we gotta talk about that more.
Well, there's one thing too that I just want to quickly chime in on that part. There's so many reasons why, like, there's they say people are homeless. Everyone has a story. There's always a reason behind it, but a lot of it also stems from government policies too. It stemmed from, there's reasons why. I mean, people take different drugs for reasons why, and I don't condone whatever the reason is. I mean, whatever it is for that individual. Maybe they become addicted to the certain drugs for medication wise, for pain relief, and then they overdose.
Well, you always hear it's because of, like, a lot of the cases, it's because somebody's gotten in a car wreck or something,
right?
In a car accident, so that they get prescribed some medication for recovering from the car wreck. And then, one thing leads to another, and they get higher and higher tolerances for medication. So they have to keep upping their medications, right?
Yeah. And that's part of it too. And the other part too is people lose hope too. There's all the people that are seniors, over 65, like, or, anyone that doesn't qualify.
And apparently your disability disappears when you're 65 too.
Well, that's what I mean. They lose their provincial disability, and now they may not have a family doctor, so now they can't get onto the federal disability benefits. So now what do they got? They got their old age security, and maybe if they paid enough in the CPP, if they're lucky, or they got the GIS. Well, as we all know, that's $1,800 a month. Why I know, because I used to do my mom's income taxes. That's why I knew how all that worked.
Did she pay you for doing her income taxes?
No, she
offered. As you're talking, Brent, you're actually raising a really good point, because, and this is a perfect example. Your mom is a perfect example. She had you to be able to do that advocacy for her and to fill out her forms and all of this stuff. I mean, if you have a senior who is isolated and, living alone, who is going to advocate for them? Exactly. Even out here, I think that there was a couple times, in the family here, we were trying to get, CT scans and whatnot, and it was impossible. You had to go through an app. There was always these apps you had to go through with your imaging and all this stuff, and it's insurmountable for someone who has barriers or multiple barriers. And so again, this is a systemic failure, and this is all, there has to be policy changes, but we're huge.
Yeah. We're getting almost to, we got 10 minutes left or so, but you touched on, like, it's got my wheel spinning a little bit, because I'll go on record and say that we had Horgan, John Horgan. He was one of the better premiers that BC has ever had. Like, I'll go on record and say that. But having said that, I mean, and I don't want to throw him under the bus, but and whether he was having a bad day or not, I don't know. But do you remember when we had that heat dome? And there was that SRO. Where all those people with disabilities, there was so many that passed away, died, there was elderly and disabilities. They died because there was no air conditioning. And John Horgan was up in front of cameras and said, well, his response, and again, I guess he was having a bad day, but his response was, well, that's what happens when you get old. And I was like my mouth dropped because, and I mean, I was really tone deaf. And like I said, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. Like maybe he was having a bad day, but I mean, you don't say stuff like that. You don't say
no, and
like,
it's the language too. It's like, and it is true. And it, when you're talking about, persons with disabilities, and when we talk about, senior citizens, that it's, it's a bigger problem than we can even comprehend in this country. It really is. And they're forgotten a lot of the time.
It was a lot of deaths. It was a lot of deaths. And I've said as well too, the thing that really pissed me off about the pandemic is when you had the health minister and our Bonnie Henry up in front of the cameras again, giving all these things and saying, well, isn't it sad that we lost maybe 10 people today to COVID? And yet, and yes, it is sad. I'm not discounting that. But when you can say these 10 over here matter because they died because of COVID, and yet you had like literally hundreds die of a heat dome.
Yeah.
And you're not even going to acknowledge and say, well, that's what happens when you get old.
Yeah.
You die in a hot box.
Right. Yeah.
Or, excuse me.
Or sorry, people with disabilities living in poverty because the government, their policies, they're not giving them enough money to actually survive in our inflation world that doesn't need to be inflated as much as it is. And having to choose between like food or like a bus pass. Like, how do you go to the grocery store if you now need to give up a bus pass that once upon a time it used to be a $45 a year bus pass?
Yeah, and now the government says you have to make a choice. Do you want food or do you want a bus pass?
Right.
But seniors still get that same bus pass though. That's the ironic part. And I'll sit on a bus and it'll say BC Bus Pass Program and it says seniors right there, and then they can qualify for that. But it's like it's crazy. I've talked to bus drivers too, and they said it makes no sense. They said, why? I don't understand. And I said, why? And they're like, it is a policy decision to change it. They said keep advocating to change it back. Don't give up. They said don't give up on what you believe in. Keep pushing forward. And that's what I said earlier, is that I'll stand behind what I believe in. I'll keep pushing forward. I remember one thing the former premier said, just give them back their bus pass. Remember that?
And now I only have to wait another 10 years or so, and then I'll qualify for the bus pass because I'll be 65.
That's right. But that what you were saying about don't give up. I mean, that goes back to what you were saying earlier. And to even, weave it in again with Terry Fox, and he was such a big symbol of hope for everybody, for everyone, not just able-bodied Canadians, but for everyone. And I just think that, now moving forward, we're going into 2024. It's a new year. I think that 100%, to be able to really hang in there and not give up is now more than ever is just imperative for all of us to keep pushing forward and really believe and have hope for ourselves, but instill it in other people.
Oh, totally. I totally echo that. And there's the inspiration of just keep going, pushing forward and making change and standing up for what you believe in, and making sure that your fellow neighbors, your fellow allies, everyone around in your communities, it doesn't matter where you are in Canada, you can make change happen, and just keep plugging forward, and hold the politicians accountable, and we can make change happen. I mean, nobody should have to pick and choose things in their life and living in a degraded like a hostel or like a SRO. I mean, this deplorable. I mean, those things should be just torn down. Those SROs.
Yeah, I mean, people wouldn't want to have their pets in there, let alone humans.
Well,
Well, that's the thing. There's a lot. There's a one of our former mayors who's went in and checked them out, and he didn't even want to go in there. He says, "I don't understand how people can even live in here," and a lot of them aren't. They're choosing not to live in there. That's why they're living on the street, because it's the deplorable conditions. So, like, when we can just keep on talking on, and I'd love to have you.
We want to have you play us out, or sing us out, we should say, if you want to sing a few bars.
Aw, that would be
I used
great.
to follow you and your friends to the ice rink.
Yeah, I'd love to have you. Love to have you back on again.
Oh, your sound quit out there, Biff.
Sorry, I keep having to mute it because the dogs.
Oh, because of the dogs. Okay.
Yeah. So no, I was gonna say I like that you love that song, because it's a song about just nostalgia and thinking of the past. But I always say, there's a song I have called "Hold On," where it goes, "Hold on to me, say you'll never leave me, tell me anything you want." And I just think that is the mood for the new year. We just gotta hold on to each other and really believe that we're gonna make it through.
Great.
Awesome.
Yeah, well, that's a wrap.
Yeah,
we made it through the hour, Brent.
Awesome. Well,
thank you for having me on your show. I'm such a huge fan, you guys, and yeah, please, I would love to come on again sometime.
Yeah, it was great. It was really great. Yeah,
it's great. That's awesome having you join us today, Beth. And I look forward to having you on again when we can get you on, and we'll continue on where we left off. And like I say, people that are watching or listening to to our show today, I guess the theme of the theme of the topic is never give up. Never give up.
That's right.
Keep pushing forward.
Never. Yeah, we can never give up.
Yeah,
and we won't.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. Thank you so much, Beth.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, great show.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys, and stay warm.
Yeah,
and stay cozy and stay safe. And hopefully we'll see you in the spring.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then all the snow that's falling right now, it'll be gone. It'll be a memory.
That's great. Just take pictures.
Do you want to build a snowman?
Of the dinosaur snowman.
Do you want to build a dinosaur?
I gotta. You know what? I gotta show you the picture.
You gotta show the picture before you leave.
I gotta show the picture of
I'd
the
love to see.
snowman.
There you go. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, isn't that good?
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah, there was a couple of shots. There was another view of it.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing.
And a front
How
view.
cool is that?
Yeah.
That's so cool. Wow, he's a sculptor. He's a real sculptor.
And there was another one who built another dinosaur, but it was a little bit different.
Wow. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very creative. Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Oh, wow. Very cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. That's my front yard.
That is awesome.
There was some tenants in my building who built them. There was like a little family of snowmen, and I was like, "Oh, I got to get down here and get a picture." Of
that. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that is awesome. See, we can find fun in the terrible snow.
There you go. Yeah.
Hey, thanks everyone for tuning in today.
Thanks everyone,
and thanks Beth for coming on. And we'll talk to you again soon and have you on again.
I can't wait, guys.
I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.
Thanks.
Stay warm. Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.
Bye.